The Honorable Minister for Education, Heritage and Arts and Local Government, Madam Premila Kumar, Principal of Vunisea Secondary School, Mr. Penyashi Sao, parents, teachers, and students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bulabinaka, and very good morning to you all. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the Ministry of Education and Vunisea Secondary School for your hospitality, warm welcome, and beautiful songs extended to us today. On behalf of the government and people of Japan, it is my honor to hand over a new building consisting of a classroom, a library, and furnished dormitories worth 600,000 Fijian dollars to Vunisea Secondary School. The government of Japan funded this project through its grassroots grant assistance scheme. In 2019, tropical cyclone Harold severely damaged the school on Kadavu Island. This devastation occurred while the recovery and reconstruction from TC Kenny was still underway. In the aftermath of TC Harold, the Honorable Prime Minister Bainimarama personally surveyed the devastation in Kadavu. After that, the Prime Minister's office requested to the government of Japan for assistance in the restoration of all 3 secondary schools in Kadavu, with the other 2 schools being Kadavu Provincial and Richmond Methodist. In recognizing the difficulties faced by the people of Kadavu and in responding to the request for assistance from the Prime Minister's office, the government of Japan decided to provide this grassroots grant assistance. I truly sympathize with the people of Kadavu. You had to face the brunt of severe cyclones in quick succession, in addition to the hardship and loss of livelihoods brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. I respect your resilience against such difficulties. Today, with the handing over of the new facilities, I'm pleased to say that we have been able to provide assistance in addressing the difficulties faced by Vunisea Secondary School and its community. The new facilities will be crucial in delivering quality education to the students. It is further reassuring to see that the new buildings is built to such standards which will enable it to serve the community as an evacuation center during emergencies and natural disasters. I'm happy to say that since 1990, Japan has implemented 415 projects through its grassroots grant assistance scheme, with a total value exceeding 31 million US dollars. Out of the 415 projects, 234 were implemented in the education sector. Ladies and gentlemen, since the beginning of 2020, the whole world has been tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. Fiji has become one of the most vaccinated societies in the world and opened its borders on December 1st last year. Following this measure, Fiji significantly eased the restriction towards COVID-19 last month. Although the threat of the virus has not faded away, Fiji is one of the most successful countries in responding to the pandemic and recovering economic and social activities. I'd like to pay tribute to the leadership of the Fijian government and the efforts of the people for having made great achievement against the pandemic. I also would like to applaud the efforts of the Honorable Minister and her team on reopening the schools and ensuring that schools are safe for children during this trying time. The education sector is one of the largest sectors, and bringing it up to speed after a long closure in midst of the pandemic is not only an academic exercise, but a huge logistically and operational undertaking as well. Students, boys and girls, in facing this pandemic, which is a global crisis, education has become even more important now. The world needs new thinking, new ideas, better solutions, and innovations as humanity is facing increasing challenges. Through education, you will become further future leaders and professionals of Fiji. Apart from your own success, your country will need your leadership and your skills to strive ahead. This is why I encourage you all to work hard and try your best to succeed academically as well as in your co-curricular activities. I wish you all the best in your learning. Finally, I would like to thank Master Eperi Wanga, the acting head of Industrial Arts at Vunisea Secondary School, for his continued support to the whole project, as well as Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Infrastructure for their help in successfully completing this project. I conclude with confidence that this project will further strengthen friendship between the government and people of Japan and Fiji, Kadavu. Minaka Bakarev. Thank you very much.
First and foremost, I pay my deepest respect to the Vanua, especially to the Turanga Tui Tavuki and the people of Kadavu. Ambassador of Japan to the Republic of Fiji, His Excellency KAWAKAMI Fumihiro, the head of school, Mr. Penyasi Sao, PA of Kadavu, distinguished representatives from the Embassy of Japan, senior officials from the government, including those who are based in Vunisea, school management committee members, parents, guardians, students, and particularly students from other schools who have joined us this morning. Media representatives, ladies and gentlemen, Bula Vinaka, and a very good morning to you all. Thank you very much for this warm welcome to our delegation to your beautiful Vunisea. I have joined His Excellency Fumihiro-san this morning to officiate at the commissioning and handover of the new and renovated buildings that have been fully funded by the Japanese government and the people of Japan. This accomplishment is through the bilateral partnership between Fiji and Japan, which extends to the development and education assistance, increasing people-to-people links, and of course, at the diplomatic level. My heartfelt gratitude and sincere appreciation to the government of Japan and its people for this overwhelming support given to the Vunisea Secondary School. We must also acknowledge that Fiji and Japan's shared interests spread beyond bilateral trade and investment and includes regional and global issues such as technological enhancement, culture, climate change, sustainable development, and many others. The effect of climate change is felt across the globe with increase in the number and intensity of natural disasters. And no one will know better than the people of Kadavu. Each time when there is a cyclone, the various problems that you face in dealing with the intensity of that cyclone and the damages it causes to your homes and to other infrastructure. Now, since Cyclone Winston came in 2016, Fiji confronted more than 9 cyclones, out of which 5 were either Category 5 or Category 4. Now, that is definitely a very strong cyclone, and it can cause, and it has caused, major damages to the infrastructure and also taken lives as well. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, TC Harold, a Category 4 cyclone, caused severe damages to the schools in Kadavu, and Vunisea Secondary School was badly affected during this cyclone, and the damage assessed was around $235,000. And you have heard from the Excellency that following TC Harold, when the Honorable Prime Minister visited Kadavu to meet the people and to witness the damages, he requested for assistance from the Embassy of Japan to restore the facilities at Vunisea Secondary School. And again, I'm very thankful to the Embassy of Japan for making this possible. As you have heard from the ambassador, the cost of this project is $600,000. The government of Japan has always been a true friend of Fiji and responded whenever Fiji was in need. Since 2016, and I'm only talking about 2016, government of Japan has assisted more than 37 schools to improve the facilities and resources worth around $15.5 million. But you have heard from the ambassador that in the education sector, the government of Japan assisted the education sector with around 235 different projects. And let me also take this opportunity and wear my hat of the minister, being the Minister for Local Government. Ministry of Local Government has been working very closely with the Embassy of Japan, and the Embassy of Japan, along with JICA, they have been assisting various municipalities under the grassroots assistance project. And I also thank you, Ambassador, for that. And let me share with you, recently on 7th of March, we all witnessed the signing of grant agreement by the government of Japan with 6 schools for the sum of $1.8 million. So you can see that the government of Japan truly believes in education, and they have been supporting various activities within school environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been told that the work started on this project in March 2021 by Friendly Builders Limited, and the work was completed in January 2022. And I thank the company for completing this project during the peak of pandemic. This is when most part of Fiji, we were under lockdown. The travel was stopped, inter-island travel was stopped. But I must thank this company for sending their team over and getting this project completed on time. Now, good facilities and sound infrastructure such as new classrooms, dormitory that you see, libraries, and other resources are important to improve the learning environment for the students of this school. Since TC Winston in 2016, the government has invested in excess of $240 million in rebuilding and repairing schools damaged by cyclones around the country. It is our humble request that the head of school, teachers, students must look after this great asset so that future students can enjoy these facilities as well. we have seen that generally when the projects are funded, somehow the head of school and the teachers and the students do not take care of the building and or any other infrastructure that is developed. I strongly believe we need to change this. We need to change this because, as you know, that each time when we repair a building or when we construct a building, it's a costly affair. It's a costly affair. And my humble request goes to the head of school that he needs to develop a school maintenance plan. A school maintenance plan is extremely important so that you have a plan through which you'll be able to do continuous repairing and maintenance of the school environment. We are not only asking for a school maintenance plan, but we also asking for a disaster management plan. These two documents are extremely important, and we want to ensure that each and every school in Fiji, they have these two documents, and these two documents must be implemented, and my ministry will ensure that whatever you put in the disaster management plan and also in school maintenance plan is delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has changed in the education sector for better. In the past, the community had to fundraise to build and repair schools. Today, the Fiji First government is building and repairing schools, taking that financial burden away from the community, away from the parents and teachers. Previously, the parents, teachers were forever involved in fundraising. They had to conduct several fundraising throughout the year to generate that money, to make that money, and through that money, they used to buy very basic resources for teaching and learning. In fact, many schools had to pay the grant-in-aid teachers, and it was through fundraising that they were able to raise 20% of their contribution, and through this contribution, they paid grant-in-aid teachers. Now, during my tour to some schools in the Western Division earlier this year, after flooding, I was really impressed to see some school instituted, and as I mentioned to you, disaster management plan. And disaster management plan is being developed just to protect the facilities and resources. We have moved around after Cyclone Yasa, Cyclone Harold, around the country. And we have also come across situation where the head of schools along with the team did not take care of the resources. In other words, they did not move the generator, they did not tie the water tank, they did not move the furniture to higher grounds, and all these equipments were, and the resources were damaged. Now we cannot have a repeat of that because we have cyclones every year, almost every year. And we cannot be investing year-round in these resources where we could have saved the money if only we had acted smartly and also acted on time to look after these resources. I'm also urging the head of school that when you develop your school maintenance plan, that should be aligned with your finances. Your finances that you receive from the ministry needs to be aligned so that you can do your continuous improvement of the school facilities. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many ways we can help ourselves build a better Fiji, but we believe the best way is by investing in education. Every year, the government budget for education is around $1 billion. $700 million comes straight to the Ministry of Education, and the rest of the money is used for TELs, toppers, and for other funding that we provide to various tertiary institutions. So the government's investment is substantial as we provide equal opportunities for all Fijians, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or geographical location. Like for the people of Kadavu and the students who are seated here and the teachers who are seated here, parents as well. I just want to say to you that, look, government will never ever discriminate just because you are tucked away in Kadavu, you're remote, you're a maritime island. We will never ever do that. Our development is across the country. We go to the most remotest place to improve the quality of life for our people, despite our small economy. Our economy is very small, and we all must understand when we talk about economy, it's really each and every person who works, they contribute to the economy through their taxes. The businesses that we have, they also pay taxes, and the government collects fines, etc. And that makes up our economy. So our economy is not a very big economy. It's a small economy. We are a small island state. But despite our economy being small, it's the way we are investing our money into improving the quality of school environment. We're improving the basic needs of our people and so forth. And we will continue to do that. We want to make sure that our schools in remote and rural areas are as good as schools in the urban areas, because often we have this view that when schools are in urban areas, they're always resourced well. But that has changed because the resources are given equally to each and every school through our free education grant. So there is no difference in terms of the money we give to a school in Kadavu and the money we give to other schools in urban areas. The free education grant is based purely on the size of the school. And how you use that money is again very clearly stipulated in the school handbook. And the school handbook clearly states there are 6 categories within which the free education grant must be spent. Our emphasis is on teaching and learning. We want to improve the resources the teachers need to teach the students. We want to improve the learning outcome. Our children need a much more conducive environment for learning, and that's what we are doing. And there is a section which focuses on computers. It focuses on library. It also talks about building maintenance. It talks about providing ancillary staff to the school. And all this funding comes from the government. And we just want to see that this money is well utilized. We will never ever compromise, particularly when it comes to the resources that our students need. There is no way a school should be saving money at the expense of teaching and learning resources. And we are focusing in that area in a very big way. And I'm sure the students who are seated here, they all know that ICT, technology, is their future. These children that you see, they must be using their parents' mobile phones. Am I right? See? And when the parents face some difficulty with their mobile phones, you know, they make some silly mistakes with their mobile phones. Who do they call? They call you. Am I right? And what do? You just simply fix it. Now I want to ask you, how did you learn to fix mobile phones? Did you go to a school to learn that? So that's the difference between how we teach and learn in 20th century and how we should be teaching our children in 21st century. 20th century, we didn't have any technology, ladies and gentlemen. We had technology, it's not that we didn't, but the technological evolution was not as big as what you see today. Today, the technological evolution is very big. And we have seen the importance of technology during the pandemic. During the pandemic, teachers were engaged in Zoom classes. They were using Moodle. Right, and some of these teachers never ever used technology in teaching, but they were forced to use technology. And you know what is the best part? Who taught them? It's the children who taught them how to use Moodle, how to use Zoom, and how to use various other applications that are available on various, with the various technology. So I think the students who are seated here, you are very smart children. You are very intelligent. See, things you can do, the parents can't do. Things you can do, the teachers can't do. And that makes you very intelligent children. Right? And I want to, again, motivate our children who have gone through this pandemic. It's really unfortunate that these children, as they grow up, and when they start their own family and lead their own life, what they went through as a student, they will never ever forget. They will be sharing the experiences of a pandemic. During this pandemic, their families who lost their loved ones because of COVID-19. During this pandemic, the school was closed for more than 8 months. Again, during this pandemic, we just saw Fiji Airways parked away. Right, there was no the regular flights that we always saw with Fiji Airways. It wasn't happening the way it was happening normally, and most of these planes were parked. Again, we saw a period when inter-island vessels could not come to the islands, and if they did, they only came to drop goods, but not to take passengers. And some of you living in Kadavu, you may not have visited your relatives and friends in Suva and other places. This is what the pandemic did. And there were huge learning losses for our children. 8 months is a long time to close a school. I don't think any one of us seated here had ever imagined that one day schools will be closed for 9 months, for 8 months. We had never ever imagined that we can be grounded on an island and we cannot exercise our freedom to move. But this is what the pandemic did. And we have learned a lot. During this pandemic, we have learned to be humble, to be considerate, to be kind to others, to help others. And I hope these values will continue with our children. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also talk about the reforms that has been introduced in the education sector to benefit our parents, students, teachers, and the employers, and also benefit the school management committees. Government has instituted initiatives such as free education grant. We are providing transport assistance, textbook assistance, and the latest inclusion is of sanitary pads. And these are the clear demonstration of government's commitment to education. These initiatives have greatly eased financial burden from the parents and the school management committees. The free education grant provided by the government, and as I mentioned earlier on, has a special allocation for building and maintenance. And I'm urging the school management team, particularly the head of school, to please use that money for maintenance work. And the ministry is also working in a number of areas to improve education. And we believe the education sector requires continuous improvement based on the development that takes place around us. Do you know what was the focus of 20th century? The focus of 20th century was social justice and climate change. Right. So 20th century, the focus was on social justice, human rights, as well as environment. And most of you, if you have read the literature, you must have heard that it was during that time the word sustainable development was introduced through Brundtland reports. And in 21st century, again, the focus is on technological advancement as well as health and well-being. So we need to move with time, and as changes occur, we need to capture that in our curriculum, and we need to innovate, make our education sector more interesting and exciting for our children. We will also develop the education sector plan. Education sector plan will be done by the Ministry of Education so that we are able to shape the education landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now bring your attention to a few other important matters. The final term for 2021 school year will come to close at the end of this month, and we are all set to open our 2022 school year on 11th April. And I'm very, very sorry to our children as well as to our teachers to say that whenever we closed our school, academic year, when it closed, you were given a longer break. Remember? 7 weeks holiday, 8 weeks holiday. But unfortunately, this time round, we can't give you that kind of holiday because most of you were home for 8 months. Right? So you are well rested and you are back in the school system. So the school will open on 11th April, and again, just take this 1 week break, rest, recuperate, and then we'll start with 2022 school year. Again, pandemic has taught us to think outside the box, and that's what we have done. Never ever we have heard that the school year can start in the month of April. You know, as kids and even as parents, we always saw back to school sale starts in December. Am I right? But this year around, back to school sale will start for 1 week in April. So that's the change we have brought about, and all thanks to the COVID pandemic. Now I'd like to share some good news to our students. Yeah? I know students, generally you don't like exams. Am I right? Because you are so stressed out with the examination. Now, not that we are scrapping exams, we are not, but we are reducing the number of internal assessment that students generally do. Students sit for term exams, term 1, term 2, term 3. We are changing that, and we're going to reduce 3 exams to only 2. So you sit for media exam and you sit for annual exam. Right? Are you happy?
Yes, we do.
So I've got the endorsement from the students. Right? So, so that would be one of the changes that we are introducing. The other one is our primary school students, particularly ECE to Year 3. ECE to Year 3, we are removing internal, or you can say the internal assessment that we are used to. Again, it's term 1, term 2, term 3 exams that is given to our younger children. We are completely scrapping this exam. We do not wish to see that our young children who are simply growing up, they should carry a stigma just because they did not perform well in the exam and they have come last. Right? And we will also stop this comparison that takes place in our families. It takes place within our relatives and in our community, where the parents will be asking other parents, how did your children do? My child came first. Am I right? So we will stop this comparison completely. And what we want is the teachers to focus mainly on numeracy, literacy, civic and moral education. Let them do art and craft. Let the young ones play. It is good for their mental and physical development. And as teachers, you have learned when you were doing your education units how important it is for our children to be engaged in physical education as well as art and craft, music, dance. Am I right? Yes. So we need to go back to what we have learned in teacher training institution and when you got your degree in that area or your certificates or diploma in that area. So we need to go back to that. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank the teachers. Our teachers have been our heroes during this pandemic. Most of our teachers have been working with the government. They have been providing services through Ministry of Health. But you may have read very recently, there was a businessman in Savu Savu who raised his concern. And he raised his concern by saying, why were the teachers paid during that period when they stayed home for 8 months? And his comparison was that when we sent our workers home, they were not paid. We reduced the working hours for our employees. We didn't pay them. But when teachers were at home, why were they given full salary? They questioned that. But as a government and as your Minister for Education, I know the work that you did. You were working from home. And that's the instruction we gave during this pandemic when we closed the school. And during this time, some of you were helping Ministry of Health in the verification of data. Some of you were actually managing the quarantine facility. Some of you were assisting Ministry of Health in the vaccination program. Some of you were actually moving around in the island with the team, raising awareness on COVID. And let's not forget, the teachers continued preparing worksheets, they continued delivering the teaching and learning that was required throughout the pandemic. Right. So you are our heroes, you did your work, and you deserve to be paid. And no teacher will be treated differently because you are a civil servant. And if there was no pay cut for civil servants, why should there be a pay cut for our teachers? So we made sure that this does not happen, and government has no intention whatsoever to cut pay for our civil servants. Our civil servants have been assisting the government in the delivery of important policies, important activities. And today I thank all the civil servants who have done a wonderful work along with our teachers. I also want to thank the parents and the ancillary staff. If parents and ancillary staff did not get themselves vaccinated, I think it would have been extremely difficult for the country to open up for economic activities. And perhaps today, we would not be here in front of you. So it is because of each and every Fijian who opted for vaccination, helped in the economic recovery of this country. You also helped in the opening of the school. Because one of the criteria was that the teachers and the ancillary staff, the school management committee, must be vaccinated. And because you all took vaccination, we are able to open the schools. And we completed our year 12 and 13 exams. Even year 13 results came out. And on April 6th, year 12 examination results will come out. And I also want to just say the last thing, you know, sometimes when you are away in a remote or maritime area, you always feel that, you know, we don't know how we are performing. Perhaps we are not performing very well because we are in a remote area. You know, as compared to an urban school that has good electricity, they have good internet connection, and they have access to other materials. But let me tell you, this time round for year 13 exams, our rural schools did very well. They did extremely well. So let's put our hands together for rural. Right, for rural and maritime schools, teachers, and students. So thank you very much, and once again I thank our ambassador for joining us today to hand over the new classroom to the head of school and the people of Kadavu, Vinaka.